She was a millionaire, broken by betrayal, ready to vanish beneath the river's surface. Until a homeless boy hiding in the shadows did something no one expected. He dove in to save her. What followed wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of a bond that would change both their lives forever and inspire a movement no one saw coming. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Now let's jump into the story. The morning sky was gray. A low mist rolled over the riverbanks, curling around rocks and reeds like smoke. Nora Winstead stood at the edge of the water, barefoot, her toes sinking into the cold mud. Her phone trembled in her hand, its bright screen filled with missed calls, messages, and flashing news alerts. Her name was everywhere, but not in the way she was used to. For years, Nora had been called a visionary. The woman who could see the future of technology before anyone else. She had built a company from scratch, spoken on global stages, and stood at the top of business rankings. But none of that mattered now. In just 48 hours, her life had unraveled. Her closest business partner had betrayed her. Documents had leaked. Headlines shouted words like fraud, corruption, scandal. She hadn't done anything wrong, but the court of public opinion didn't wait for evidence. They had already decided. Nora Winstead had fallen. She shut her eyes and let out a shaky breath. "They'll never believe me," she whispered. "After everything I gave up, this is how it ends?" She stepped into the river, the cold water rising around her ankles. Each step forward pulled her deeper, the soft current pressing gently against her legs. Her blouse clung to her sides, soaked at the hem. But she didn't stop. On the far side of the riverbank, hidden behind a broken fence and a patch of tall grass, a boy crouched low. His name was Jamal. He was 11, thin, quiet, and nearly invisible to most of the world. His shirt was torn at the shoulder. His pants were too short. His skin was smudged with dust, and his small hands gripped a plastic bag filled with crushed cans. He came to this part of the river often, sometimes to wash his face, sometimes to listen to the wind, but mostly to be alone. Today was different. He had spotted her from behind the fence, a woman in expensive clothes, barefoot, walking into the water like she didn't care what came next. Jamal tilted his head, watching carefully. "What's she doing?" he muttered. Nora dropped her phone into the water. It vanished beneath the surface with barely a splash. She tilted her head back, letting the sun warm her face. The current tugged at her waist now. She closed her eyes. "Maybe it's easier this way," she said quietly. Jamal's heart thudded in his chest. He didn't understand everything she was saying, but he understood enough. He had seen this look before. He had felt it himself on the worst nights, when it felt like nothing would ever change. Then Nora slipped. Her foot caught on a rock, and she fell sideways into the water. Her head disappeared beneath the surface. Jamal stood up. For a moment he froze, his breath caught in his throat. He was afraid of the river. He couldn't swim well. But something deep inside him shouted, "Move." He dropped the bag of cans and ran. Mud squished under his bare feet as he tore through the tall grass and down the slope. The river was colder than he expected. His legs burned as he pushed forward. He didn't think. He just moved. Ahead, he saw her blouse float just beneath the surface. Her arms didn't move. Her face was pale. Her body looked heavy in the water. Jamal grabbed her under the arms. His own arms trembled with effort. She didn't respond. Her eyes were closed. "Wake up!" he yelled. His small voice cracked. The river pulled at them both, but he didn't let go. Step by step he kicked and dragged until he could feel the soft riverbed under his toes. He pulled her toward the shallows. His chest ached from the cold and the effort. Finally, they reached the edge. He laid her down in the wet grass. Her lips were blue. Her chest didn't rise. Jamal knelt beside her, shaking. He looked around. No one was near. No one would come. His hands ached. He didn't know what to do. But then he remembered something. Months ago, he had watched a man fall in the market. A woman had pressed on the man's chest over and over until he gasped back to life. Jamal didn't know the word for it, but he remembered the motion. "Please work," he whispered. He pressed his palms to her chest, gently at first, then harder. "Come back," he muttered. "Please, come back." Nothing. Panic rose in his throat. Tears stung his eyes. He tried again, counting. 1, 2, 3. Still nothing. His breath came in short gasps. Then he remembered something else. Kids by the river once joked about blowing air into someone's mouth. Jamal had laughed with them. But now, it didn't seem like a joke. He leaned down, shivering. "I don't know if this works," he said, voice breaking, "but I have to try." He pinched her nose, took a deep breath, and gave her air. For a moment, everything was still. Then her body jolted. She coughed, water pouring from her mouth. Her hands reached for the ground. She gasped for breath. Jamal sat back, shaking, his hands covering his face. "She's alive," he whispered. Nora opened her eyes slowly. The sky above her blurred and spinning. Then she saw him, a boy, thin, shaking, covered in mud. "You?" she croaked. Jamal nodded once. He didn't speak. She tried to sit up, but winced in pain. "Why?" she asked weakly. "Why did you save me?" Jamal looked down. His voice was small. "Because no one ever saved me." And as the sun broke through the clouds, lighting the quiet river, two strangers sat side by side, connected not by words, but by the truth of what had just passed between them. The sky remained heavy and gray, as if the clouds themselves were holding their breath. Nora lay on the muddy riverbank, soaked to the bone, her chest rising and falling in short, gasping breaths. Beside her, Jamal sat in silence, his arms wrapped around his knees, watching every movement she made. He didn't know if she would stay awake. He didn't know if she was hurt. He only knew she was alive, for now. Nora's eyes fluttered open again, blinking away the blur. The river roared quietly behind them, and everything else felt distant. "You," she whispered again. Her voice cracked like dry paper. Jamal looked at her, but said nothing. His heart still beat too fast. His body was shaking, cold from the water and fear. "What's your name?" she asked. Jamal hesitated, then said softly, "Jamal." She nodded slowly. "Jamal," she repeated, as if trying to make it real. "You saved me." Jamal looked down at his scraped hands. He didn't reply. His throat was tight. No one had ever thanked him for anything before. He didn't know what to say. "Why did you help me?" she asked again. Jamal shrugged. "I couldn't just watch," he said. "You were going under." Nora turned her head to the sky. Thick clouds rolled by in silence. "I didn't think anyone would notice," she admitted. Jamal frowned. "Someone always notices." They sat there quietly, the silence stretching between them. Jamal stood after a few minutes and looked around. "We can't stay here," he said. "It's too cold. You'll get sick." Nora tried to stand, but her legs buckled beneath her. Jamal reached out, steadying her with both hands. His grip was small, but strong. "There's a place," he said. "Not far, just under the train bridge." She nodded weakly. "Lead the way." They walked slowly. Nora leaned on him, one arm draped across his shoulder. Jamal led her across the muddy path, past the broken fence, through patches of weeds and rusted metal. Finally, they reached a concrete archway tucked beneath an old train line. It wasn't much, just a small dry space behind a wall of cardboard and crates. But it was safe, and it was Jamal's. "Sit here," he said, helping her down gently. Nora sank onto a folded blanket that smelled of smoke and dirt, but she didn't complain. She was too tired to care. Jamal pulled out a dented metal thermos and offered it to her. "It's just water," he said, "but clean." She took it with shaking hands and drank slowly. "You live here?" she asked. Jamal nodded. "For a while now." Nora looked around. There were signs of survival everywhere. A small pile of canned food, a flashlight missing its cover, a stack of books wrapped in a plastic bag. "Jama, where's your family?" she asked gently. Jamal paused, then said, "Gone." His voice was flat, not angry, not sad, just quiet. Nora nodded. She didn't ask more. She knew what it felt like to lose people, to be alone in a world that kept moving without you. "You said you didn't think anyone would notice," Jamal said after a long pause. "What did you mean?" Nora stared at the wall. Her fingers gripped the edge of the blanket. "I used to be someone," she said. "Someone important. I had a company. People followed my words. They listened." "What happened?" he asked. "Someone close to me lied, stole, and when it all fell apart, everyone blamed me." Her voice shook. "They posted pictures of my house, called me a fraud, said I deserved to lose everything." Jamal listened. His eyes didn't blink. "I just wanted it to stop," she whispered. "The noise, the hate, the headlines. I thought, if I disappeared, it would all be easier." Jamal looked down. Then he said quietly, "I don't know much about headlines, but I know what it feels like to want the world to stop." Nora looked at him. His face was tired, too old for someone so young. But his eyes were kind, clear, honest. "Thank you, Jamal," she said. "Not just for pulling me out, but for sitting with me now." He nodded slowly. "Most people don't see me," he said. "They walk past like I'm invisible." "You're not," she said. "Not to me." The wind blew through the cracks in the concrete, soft and cold. Jamal handed her his extra shirt. "It's dry," he said. "You need it more than I do." She took it, not because it was warm, but because it was the first thing someone had given her freely in a long, long time. And under that gray sky, with nothing but broken crates and shadows to shield them, two strangers sat close, bound by a moment neither of them had expected. A woman who had once had everything, and a boy who had never had enough, found something in each other that the world had long forgotten. Hope. The sky had begun to shift. Thin beams of morning light slipped through the cracks in the train bridge above. A soft golden glow fell over the concrete floor where Nora and Jamal sat quietly. The night had passed slowly, but without words. Neither of them had slept much. Nora leaned against the wall, wrapped in the blanket Jamal had offered. Her body still ached from the cold, but her heart felt warmer than it had in days. Jamal sat cross-legged nearby, drawing shapes in the dust with a broken stick. Curves, swirls. He didn't say much, but his hands moved with quiet focus. "What are you drawing?" Nora asked. Her voice was gentle. He shrugged. "Just things I remember." She watched him sketch. A tree, a house, then a sun with long, jagged rays. "Is that your home?" she asked softly. Jamal nodded. "Was, a long time ago." He didn't look up. "What happened?" He paused, then wiped the drawing away with the side of his hand. "My mom got sick. We didn't have money. When she passed, everything else went with her. Nora felt her throat tighten. And your father? Jamal shook his head. Never knew him. Just me and her. Then just me. They sat in silence again, but this time it felt like shared silence. Not heavy, just honest. You're strong, she said finally. Most kids wouldn't survive what you have. Jamal looked at her, surprised. I don't feel strong, just tired. Strength doesn't always feel like power, she said. Sometimes it feels like getting through another day. He nodded slowly, like he understood. Nora leaned forward. You said people don't see you. Why do you think that is? He shrugged. People don't like looking at things that make them uncomfortable. It's easier to pretend someone like me doesn't exist. His words hit her hard. She had lived a life of glass walls and marble floors, never once thinking about the shadows outside, until now. But you saw me, Jamal said. Not just now, before. You looked at me when you were walking to the river. I did, she admitted. I didn't know it then, but I think I needed someone to notice me too. Jamal looked at her for a long time. Then he smiled faintly. I guess we both disappeared in different ways. Nora reached into her coat pocket. Somehow, the inside had stayed dry. She pulled out a crumpled envelope. This was supposed to be a letter to my lawyer, she said, but I think it's more important now. She opened it and tore off a piece. On the blank side, she wrote a name. What's this? Jamal asked. My real name, she said. Not the one in the headlines. Not the one people blame. Just me, Nora. Jamal stared at the paper, then reached into his bag and pulled out something folded and old. A drawing. A single page filled with color, bent at the edges. He handed it to her. And it showed a small house beside a river, with a large tree and two stick figures under the branches. This is your dream, she said softly. He nodded. I draw it when I feel alone. One day, I want to build it. A real house. Not big, not loud, just safe. Nora held the picture carefully. She didn't say anything for a long time. You will build it, she said. I don't know how yet, but I believe you will. Jamal looked down. No one had ever said that to him, not once. He reached into the dust and carefully wrote his name beside hers, not in pen, just in dirt. Nora Jamal, two names in the same space, equal, visible, real. Outside, a train passed slowly overhead. The bridge rumbled, but inside their small shelter, there was peace. Nora leaned back. You know, I don't have much left. No house, no company, no money they'll let me touch right now. Jamal looked at her. Then we're the same. She smiled. Maybe. But I have something that matters more right now. What's that? She tapped her heart. A reason to try again. Jamal nodded. Me too. And in that moment, beneath cracked concrete and a cloudy sky, they weren't just a runaway boy and a fallen millionaire. They were survivors. People who had been broken but still believed in rebuilding. Neither knew what the next day would bring. But they had names again, stories again, a little hope again. And that, for now, was enough. A week had passed since the river. The sky had shifted from gray to blue, and the early morning breeze carried the soft scent of new grass. The city still moved in its usual rush, cars honking, people walking quickly with heads down. But something had changed. Not in the city, but in two people who now walked through it, side by side. Nora Winstead and Jamal. Once strangers, now something more, connected not by blood or background, but by a moment that neither of them would ever forget. Nora walked a little slower now, not from weakness, but from intention. She noticed things. The boy on the corner with no shoes. The woman holding a sign near the grocery store. She used to glance past them. Now, she stopped. Jamal stayed close to her. He still slept near the train bridge, but he no longer felt invisible. Someone had seen him. Someone had listened. They had spent the last few days together, eating simple meals, walking through quiet streets, and learning each other's stories. Nora had met Marlon, the old vendor who sometimes gave Jamal bread. Jamal had sat with Nora at a local library while she read articles about the scandal slowly fading from the news. Then one morning, Nora stood outside a vacant lot. The grass was tall, the fence broken. An old sign hung from a crooked post, faded and unreadable. Jamal looked at her curiously. "What is this place?" Nora smiled gently. "It's going to be something new." She had called in a favor, one of the few she had left. The property had once been hers, long before her fall from grace. She had planned to sell it years ago, but never followed through. Now, it had a new purpose. "We're going to build something here," she said. "Not for me, not for headlines, but for kids like you, kids who deserve to be seen." Jamal's eyes widened. "Like a shelter?" "Yes," she said, "but not just a place to sleep, a place to learn, to rest, to grow." He was quiet for a long time, then nodded. "Okay." A month later, work began. Not fast, not perfect, but steady. Nora worked alongside volunteers. She swept floors, painted walls. Jamal helped sort books and carry boxes. He even picked up a hammer for the first time. People in the neighborhood started noticing. Not the building, but the effort, the idea. They brought sandwiches, old chairs, bags of clothes. One woman donated school supplies. Another offered to teach art. And slowly, the empty lot became something else. Not just a center, a second chance. On a sunny afternoon, just before the doors officially opened, a group gathered outside. The front wall had been painted bright yellow. A small garden bloomed near the entrance. Jamal stood beside Nora, wearing a clean shirt and shoes someone had donated. He fidgeted with the sleeves, nervous. Nora placed a hand on his shoulder. "Are you ready?" He nodded. "I think so." A volunteer pulled away the cloth, covering the wooden board nailed to the front wall. Underneath, carved in simple letters, was a name. The Bright Path Center, inspired by the Courage O. The crowd clapped. Jamal stared at the words, eyes wide. "That's about me?" he asked quietly. Nora nodded. "It's always been about you." A local reporter stepped forward. "Miss Winstead, why open a center like this now?" Nora looked out at the faces watching. Some familiar, some new. "Because I lost everything that didn't matter," she said, "and found something that did." She looked down at Jamal. "Because the strongest people I've ever met don't wear suits or sit in corner offices. They survive storms with no roof and still choose kindness." Jamal blushed, unsure of how to react, but the pride in his eyes said enough. Later that evening, after the visitors had gone and the last light faded from the sky, Jamal sat on the steps of the center, watching the stars. Nora joined him with 2 cups of warm tea. "It's quiet now," she said. He nodded. "But it feels good, like something's just starting." She sipped from her cup. "It is." Jamal looked at her. "Do you think people like me can really change things?" Nora smiled. "You already did." He turned back to the sky. For the first time in his life, the stars didn't feel far away. They felt like they belonged to him too. And on that soft night, beneath a sky finally clear of gray, a boy who had once been lost found something he never expected. Not a home built of bricks or walls, but a place in someone's heart, and a sign that would carry his name long after the silence faded.